So before we look at the reasons behind their resurgence, right, let's look at some of the reasons why the CCR didn't perform well over the last, right, underperformed the market over the last couple of years, right, basically from the 2013s to 2020, okay? So before we look at the reasons behind their resurgence, right, let's look at some of the reasons why the CCR didn't perform well over the last, right, underperformed the market over the last couple of years, right, basically from the 2013s to 2020, okay? I boil down to these couple of reasons, okay? Reason number one, right, there were too many investors, too much speculation in the CCR pre-2013 or pre-cooling measures, right? It was in the era whereby there was 90% LTV, there was no ABSD, so there was a lot of people that you know, just with $100,000 you could buy $1 million property, right? With $200,000 you can buy two $1 million properties at 90% leverage each, because there's no ABSD. And then with given all this, the lack of restrictions, right? The mindset of the people the investors pre-2013, given a choice, where you buy, right? You will naturally buy the CCR, the better properties, the better areas. Yeah, and at that point in time, investment in the OCR also wasn't in vogue yet, right? So all the speculative purchases were focused in the CCR. Of course, not to say the RCR and OCR don't have, right? But mainly in the CCR. So in this period of 2013 to 2020, they were sort of stuck with those speculative purchases, right? Those that weren't able to afford it had to sell it, force sale it, be it mortgage or whatnot. Hence bringing the prices down. Alright? So I would say 2013 to 2020 was a period whereby the investors were clearing their speculative purchases, cutting losses, things like that, right? Because with all the restrictions imposed on the Singapore property market, they weren't able to exit at the kind of prices that they bought, right? Because when people buy prices, especially when they buy new launch prices, they are forecasting, right, how much they'll be able to sell moving forward. And with fundamentals being so different from when they actually bought to pre and post cooling measures, right, the prices just couldn't match up to where they were at when they purchased in the early 2000s. Okay, so that's that. Second point, right, the price gap between the CCR and the other regions. So remember my chart earlier on, last time the CCR was easily double the price of the properties in the RCR and the OCR. On top of that, the developers used to build really big units in the CCR, right? So if you go to like Honolulu Towers, you get 5,000 square feet. Right, Wing on Life Gardens, you tend to look at, right, minimally 3,000 square feet. So imagine this, already 2,000 PSF, then smallest unit 2,000 square feet. So that's going to be a minimum purchase price of 2,000 PSF, 2,000 square feet, $4 million last time. Yeah. Versus, you know, if somebody would have bought a 2,000 square feet in the OCR, that will only have set them back at $2 million. So that's like $2 million gap. Fast forward to today, right? So later on, right, that's one of the reasons why I feel that there's a resurgence happening, right? So last time, the price gap too big. People cannot afford that jump, right? They never even think about going into the CCR because, right, not just the PSF, but the quantums were too big. Alright, so hence point number 3, out of reach of the mass market due to large quantums because of the large size. Right, the unattractiveness to foreigners after ABSD, right? Because these foreigners, they especially the high net worth, ultra high net worth, they are very mobile, or they are very flexible in terms of where they buy, right? They buy in the particular locations where they feel give them best security, right? Number one, right? On the security, but that's why they still want to buy in Singapore lah, right? But second part is where they can potentially make the most money for those who are looking to sort of invest in a particular area. So with the cooling measures coming in, basically stripping the Singapore property market of speculative demand, all this hot money flowed away into other countries. Yeah, countries like Australia, New Zealand, London, locations where they were not bogged down by all these cooling measures, right? Government artificially created measures to suppress a property market. But today, and especially after COVID-19, that seems to be changing, right? I'm going to touch on that later on. But so on this point, Singapore were one of the first countries to institute additional buyer stamp duty, basically penalizing foreigners for buying properties in that country. So with that, it didn't appear that attractive for foreigners to buy properties in Singapore anymore, and hence they chose to buy in other countries. So stripping us of the demand from foreigners. Okay, and on the last point, right, the mindset shift. Okay, so previously, before the cooling measures, there was a lot of speculation, right? Everybody buying property was looking at flipping it in 6 to 9 months, because at that point in time also don't have SSD. So good, right? Last time, no SSD, no ABSD, 90% leverage. It was the wild west. That was why people could have made tons of money from property. But also with speculative demand brought about huge movements in prices, and that was the reason why the government instituted cooling measures, right? So in the big picture, the cooling measures did help Singaporeans, but the cooling measures have caused the CCR to underperform over the last couple of years. So has the things, right? So if we want to answer the question, is the CCR poised for a comeback? What we need to look at is these factors that are causing its underperformance. Have things changed, right? Have the fundamentals changed to justify or to make us convinced that things will be taking a change, right, for the better?